Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Welcome to IAG Live. And I'm coming at you from a very improvised situation at Crown Sydney. Yes, that is the Sydney. Let's let things go. Ben, you may have to use, I'm very, very improvised, more improvised than I have been any other time that I've done IAG Live. Ben's in the background listening at the moment. But before we bring Ben in, we will bring in, as we always do, studio Oscar Guiaro. Oscar, please go ahead. There you are.
Hello.
So, Oscar, it's going to be a very improvised IAG Live from me today. You may have to jump in and get Ben to take over at some point. Let's see if this works.
We got you. Okay.
All right. I'm not even getting you through here at the moment. I'm actually getting you through the phone. So I'm going to try and fix that at some point too. Hopefully you're getting me through here rather than there. But you're hearing me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. No problem.
And the video's okay, is it?
Yeah. All good,
Okay.
but you got frozen a little bit just a minute ago. I think it will
Sure.
happen maybe again.
Yeah, probably. I mean, such are the travails of the road warrior. You end up with all these, different Wi-Fi's and different situations and screening points, which is all part of the excitement of being on the road and traveling between these integrated resorts. So, to rescue me if needed, we better get Ben in here as quickly as possible. So, come on in, Ben Blaschke, managing editor of IAG. Hello, Ben.
Hey, Andrew, that's a nice view behind you of Sydney.
Yes, and even the if I get out the way, you could just make out the Opera House as well behind me.
In fact, if you look really closely, you might even be able to see me on the other side of that bridge.
Well, yes, you're over there somewhere. I know maybe you're over here somewhere, I think, actually, aren't you?
About there. Yeah, about
Yes,
there.
approximately there. So we're both in Sydney, but you're over at your place back with the fish. And I am in Crown Sydney with this magnificent view, beautiful room. But unfortunately, I got to get out of here as soon as we're finished. I am checking out, heading off to Melbourne. And I know I keep on ducking down because I think the top of my head is cut off. I haven't quite been able to frame this upright this week. So Ben, be ready to rescue me if necessary.
Yep, no problem. But you seem quite smooth for the past few minutes, so we might.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm in Melbourne for regulating the game. Actually, in Sydney for regulating the game. In your hometown, Sydney. I've just done something worse. You've given you a fate worse than death. I've called Sydney Melbourne. You won't be happy with that. But I'm in Sydney here for regulating the game. Well, your thoughts, Ben, on the regulating the game? We had that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. You and I were together in the show. I chaired the second day. You moderated a panel. It's a pretty good show, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good. Look, full credit to Paul Newson and his team for organising. I think this is the 6th year of regulating the game. And you and I both know, Andrew, we've been for the majority of those years. We've just seen it get a little bit better each year, But I think now it's fully bedded into the Australian industry here. People are familiar with the show. He's able now to tap into some really good speakers. People sort of understand what he's trying to achieve there. So I think we had a great lineup of keynote speakers, of panel speakers, of topics. We really delved into, issues like, offshore black market gambling, latest regulations, the progress being made by certain operators, and we had some very interesting speakers, including on Wednesday, the CEO of AUSTRAC, the financial crimes watchdog here in Australia. So, look, overall a very good show, Andrew, and some great little networking events on the side. We caught up with a lot of people, met some new friends, and I thought it was really successful.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to get a show going, any kind of show. I mean, we run a lot of events in IAG, and all of them were somewhat of a struggle at the start to get going. You got to be really persistent. And so all credit to Paul for putting that together. I think it's certainly the best show in Australia. I'd be very comfortable in saying that the best in our industry, B2B gaming show does focus predominantly on regulation. And obviously regulation has been a big issue here in Australia over the past, almost decade now. And I agree with you. I thought it was great. So, a lot of stuff on black market stuff, which kind of makes sense, right? With regulators making Australia a very tough jurisdiction. Actually, multiple jurisdictions in Australia, obviously with the multiple states, but all the jurisdictions in Australia are all sort of heading in the same direction from a regulatory point of view, all heading towards can't do this, can't do that, and coming down tough on the gaming operators, whether they be sports betting or whether they be casinos or whatever they are. That does, it's not prohibition, but it's making it more difficult for players to play, and therefore it gives opportunities to black market operators. And I think that was a bit of a theme through the show. And it was your panel, wasn't it, Ben? Maybe you could talk a little bit about your panel, the black market, who was on the panel, and what you guys talked about.
Yeah, look, we had a great panel late on day 2 talking about black market, the impact of offshore. Actually, it covered more than that. It was both land-based and online. So in the online space, we looked at offshore operators targeting Australians. In the land-based, we spoke about underground casinos rising up across the country. Underground casino, underground poker are quite prolific, I would say. And look, we had a great panel because we had a great selection of panelists. Really, we had. I won't go through everybody's names. We had a representative from the regulator, representative that was formerly headed up the ACIC, the Commission Against Corruption. We had operators on there. We had Amina from Crown, David Foster from Entain. We also had Kai Cantwell from Responsible Wagering Australia. They're sort of an industry lobby group. So we had representatives from really across the spectrum. And what I enjoyed about it, it was a respectful chat, having the regulator on there, Colonel Lynch from the ACMA. It was a very respectful discussion. It was an open discussion. Everybody gave their point of view, but I think everybody, even the regulator, agreed the challenges that we face at the moment, given, as you said before, Andrew, Australia is a very strict environment at the moment, and when you have a very strict regulatory environment, when you don't allow certain things to happen in the gaming space, or you're quite strict on cracking down, then it inevitably opens opportunity for black market.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I'm just fiddling around with my phone while I'm talking, trying to get it right. There we go. That's a bit better. Look, it certainly does. And I think some really good comments were made. And there are some sort of real world examples going on in Australia. We've seen police raiding some illegal gaming sites. Nobody wants to see them flourish. And, it just shows that the theory that if gaming is sort of cracked down upon too much, that illegal gaming will appear. It does play out in reality, and that's been true, and we've seen that in market after market after market. So in markets where gaming is completely banned, there are permanent illegal operators, and in markets where gaming is more difficult, let's say, which is kind of Australia at the moment. It does illegal gaming. It doesn't have those restrictions, doesn't pay that tax, doesn't have the sort of responsible gaming things built into it and so forth. They do tend to start to pop up. So, yeah, quite interesting. Anyway, we've banged on about that over and over again, but it was a theme of the Regulating the Game conference. It was good to see Paul do it. I guess we'll be here back in Sydney next March for that conference again. We actually met with him yesterday and had a bit of a chat with him, didn't we? And he's already planning for next year.
Yeah, that's right. I think, as I said before, Paul's had 6 years of this show now. He's built it out. I think it's well established, and it's actually a show that I think you and I both really look forward to attending this show each year, Andrew. Yeah. We always learn something. It's always quite interesting.
Yeah, and we meet. It's not the usual suspects too, because Australia's a little different to the markets that we often operate in. Obviously, the biggest markets in Asia Pacific are Macau, Philippines, Singapore, and then Australia. And I think Australia is a little bit of an outlier as well, with Singapore and Macau and Philippines all going well. Perhaps Philippines not going as well as it used to, but Macau is certainly booming. Singapore is certainly booming. Philippines has certainly got a very pro regulator in PADCOR, whereas Australia has got regulators that seem to be more anti-gaming or more looking to put controls on gaming. So it's a little bit different. We're meeting different people. The thoughts of industry executives working in our industry in Australia are different. You know, you can really tell from the tone of the discussions on the sidelines of the event that it's all about responsible gaming, AML, sanctions from government departments. This is kind of the primary focus, not so much in running the business and marketing the business, which is what you would hear in other places. When we do the IAG EXPO in September, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of panels on how to grow your business and what the industry trends and what are new products and what's going on in the industry. We're going to have a lot of that. That wasn't really so much of that. I mean, it is a regulatory conference, but there still wasn't so much of that, was there?
No, as you say, Andrew, it's pretty much all AML and RG is the majority tone. And then this year, I think the introduction of the discussion around black market was probably the third of those sort of three overarching themes that we saw throughout the show. But one thing I think that we did see was just a very slight shift in tone since the past few years, where there was a little bit of pushback against regulators. There hasn't been that in recent years. So maybe not even so much regulators, but against policy that dictates how the regulators approach the industry. So I think we are starting to see industry start to say, hey, we've done a lot of work here and we're still continuing to work with you and we're happy to work with you. But can we strike a bit of a balance here, because the pendulum maybe swung too far from one side to the other? Can we start to bring it back to the middle?
Yeah, and there's no doubt that there's been a serious concerted effort by the operators to work on the things that the regulators have wanted them to do. You can just see that. You can see that that's everybody's focus. Anyway, look, enough on that. Let's move on. But it was great, and if anyone's watching this and considering whether they should come to regulating the game, any industry folks, I would recommend it. I would say yes, absolutely. Especially if you've never been to one, put it in your calendar for March next year. Come down to Sydney, or if you're within Australia and you're thinking, should I Sydney? I would recommend it. It's a good 3 days. We'll be there next year, and there's a lot of interesting folks there. It was great to see Brendan. Brendan, it's Thomas, right? I should know that. It's Brendan Thomas, the CEO of the of AUSTRAC, and he doesn't have to come. But he did, and he came and he explained quite a bit, and that was quite good too. Anyway, look, let's move on. So, Oscar, let's go through Oscar, you're still with us. We haven't said goodbye yet. Okay, Oscar.
I was waiting for the
All right.
Well, I'm going back to
fair
the
enough.
kitchen.
Fair enough. Yeah, back into the kitchen. Exactly. All right, Oscar. We'll let you go so that you can queue up the first of our stories for this week. I think we've got 10 stories we're going to make some commentary on this week. And Oscar, I've actually sent you a little video of the room here as well. If you manage to get that queued up at the end and we have time to show it, it'd be great to show everybody a video of the room here at Sydney. But if not, no problem. We don't have to do that. I'll post it on LinkedIn later. Ben, you're going to have to help me here because I'm operating off my phone, so I can't really read the fine print. I can only read the headlines here. Let's start off with Bloomberry. They put their numbers out. They just missed press briefing last Friday, didn't they? They tend to come out at 8 a.m. Manila time, which is just when we go to print, and they or go to email, and they generally come out on a Friday. So it ends up being in breakfast briefing on the following Monday, which might perhaps be the reason they do it. It was a tough year last year for Bloomberry.
Yeah, they fell to a loss. They had a number of good years the past few years, but they fell to a $44 million US loss in full year 25. Really continuing this theme that we've seen in the Philippines recently on weaker premium gaming segments, obviously heavily impacted by the banning of the POGOs. In the case of Bloomberry, the loss is also impacted by costs associated with the launch of their Mega Funnelo online gaming platform. But really, I think that the main issue for them at the moment is weaker premium gaming. Hopefully, finding ways to turn that around by the whole talk now is driving inbound tourism again from those key Chinese and Korean markets.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of makes sense that Solaire would suffer a little from that because they've always been the king of sort of the premium player. They've always had those junkets, both external and internal, and those higher level rooms upstairs at the floor there at Solaire. So they've I wouldn't say relied's too strong a word, but they've it's been a major component of their business has been that higher end. Those people have wanted to go to Solaire rather than going to Newport or Okada or even City of Dreams, because Solaire, I guess, was first in Entertainment City, and I guess it's perceived as the number one of the IRs in Manila. So it's suffering from that. So tough times for Mr. Rizon and Mr. Hawkins, but that is not. It's not really their fault, is it? It's the market, right? It's the nature of the market with the drop off of these Koreans and Chinese, and we see the government trying to do a few things. The government of the Philippines trying to do a few things to stimulate that tourism. So hopefully that comes back. That comes back as this year plays out. All right. Let's move on to the next one, Ben, or Oscar, I should say. What's next? Yeah, I thought I'd put this in because the lottery, we don't talk at all about the Lottery Corp very much. And Susan van der Merwe is always on the Power 50 as the head of the Lottery Corp, because they actually do very big business in Australia, don't they? Ben, perhaps you could talk us through this one, how they came to in existence. There might be a lot of viewers who don't really know this company at all, how it came into existence with the demerger and what it does, the Keno and the bingo and all of that, and what their business is, and why you wrote this story. Oh, did you write this story? I can't remember. I can't read it, but just take us through this one, Ben.
Well, as you say, Andrew, the Lottery Corp does pretty huge numbers, multi-billion dollars a year in revenue every year, and pretty stable revenue. We don't see massive up and down each year. It's sort of within say a 5% range usually each year, up or down. As you say, Andrew, the Lottery Corp was born out of the divestiture from Tabcorp of its lotteries business. Must have been 3 or 4 years ago now. Created this new entity called the Lottery Corp, which of course does far more revenue than Tabcorp does. It's quite a giant. So this story was really about some changes. You say Sue van der Merwe retired very recently, so they've had a bit of a change of leadership there, and the new leadership has restructured the executive team. So what they've basically done is created 3 new core segments within the business. From memory, that is lotteries, digital, and Keno, I think, are the three.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it was those 3. Yep.
Yeah, so really it's the restructuring. I guess the new leadership has their own ideas around operating this business. But I mean, the Lotteries Corp always features in our Power 50 each year. It's a sizable business and just keeps powering along.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of saying something not very nice, I don't mean it this way. It's not particularly glamorous business in our industry, but money is money, and the money that goes through that business is quite ferocious. So they don't have beautiful F&B outlets and non-gaming like a big IR might, but they certainly are a gaming company. They're certainly in Asia Pacific, so they come under our purview and of IAG, and they make substantial money. So that's an interesting one. All right, well, let's move on. What's next, Oscar? PhilWeb. So PhilWeb's going through a bit of a transformation, isn't it?
It is, Andrew. Obviously, change of ownership very recently, and the new ownership has naturally installed a new board of directors, which was actually part of the agreement as part of the sale. That was always going to happen. So they announced their new board this week. I'm not overly familiar with all of the new directors, although our friend Tom is, of course, one of those new directors. And and have been quite active recently, Andrew. They're really pivoting towards this, developing e-gaming platforms for other companies. So they've done that recently, or they've announced Han Resorts. They're working with FBM as well. So they really seem to be going down that road now.
Yeah, change in nature of the business. We're still calling them an e-games operator. I think e-games operator, we should say, and they do still do that. But this seems to be the pivot. Seems to be a pivot to more of a B2B business, providing online gaming for other companies for IRs or whatever, and obviously change of ownership. I think the new owners are essentially are the former management, aren't they? It's a bit of a management
Yep.
buyout, I think it was, wasn't it? And
Yep.
they've brought, as you say, they've brought Tonette from Arden Consult, who we announced recently as our first expert contributor in our expert contributor program. She's our expert contributor for legal and regulatory affairs in the Philippines for the gaming industry, particularly the iGaming industry. And she's on the board as an independent director. And that's for the nature of PhilWeb is changing. So that company, they're listed, aren't they? They're listed on the Philippines
They are. Yes.
PSX or whatever it is. PSE, right? The
PSE,
Philippines
that's right.
PSE, yeah. So quite interesting. So keep an eye on PhilWeb as a company to keep an eye on. Maybe buy some shares in them and get the share price up. Who knows? All right, let's go look at the next one. Oscar, what's next? Yeah, so Japan, huh? Japan's back on.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've spoken at length about Japan, unless it's MGM. But there's a bit happening. There's been confirmed the second round of IR bidding is going to take place next year. So we're going to see a few jurisdictions, a few prefectures either put their hand up or not. But we do know at this stage that Aichi is quite adamant that they're going to be involved. Looks like Hokkaido is very likely to be involved, which is not a surprise. So, yeah, this story sort of, Aichi, it actually pointed out to us by people involved in the matter there that the budget set aside this year for IR is quite substantial and quite a bit more than Hokkaido, actually. So, I think that just shows that Aichi Prefecture is quite serious about pursuing this opportunity.
Yeah, there's some intent there. And if there are any other prefectures in Japan that are interested and want to reach out to us, please do. And obviously, we're snooping around as well. But or if there are any other businesses in Japan that want to publicize what's going on there, because it'll be interesting to see how many cities and prefectures put their hands up and say, yes, we want an integrated resort, because we certainly know there's going to be one in Osaka now. That's a done deal in MGM. So you probably wouldn't want to be too close to there, I guess. Clearly we're not going to have a cluster effect. That's never going to happen in Japan, because it was hard enough to get one, never mind a cluster. So I guess you'd want to be as far away from Osaka as possible, wouldn't you? Which is, Hokkaido's a long way from Osaka. And Hokkaido sort of put their hand up last time, but then withdrew at the last minute. And we know that Hard Rock is particularly interested in Hokkaido. They've sort of got their heart set on Hokkaido. So that would be interesting. But Aichi definitely showing some intent, setting aside 1.75 million US dollars budget. Now, let me just that doesn't sound like a big amount of money in the kind of dollars we talk in on this channel normally. But let's make it clear what that money is. That's the money being set aside by the prefecture itself, kind of like the council or the city government, or the prefectural government, state government, to study. And it's Japan; they have to have a study, right? Because it's Japan. So they're putting some money into a study to study IR development. And obviously, with a view to putting their hands up and saying, "Yep, we'd love to have an IR and Aichi prefecture." So quite interesting to see what will happen there.
I think there are, Andrew, a few questions that are looming with this second round of bidding. I think one of them is, will the process change at all from last time? Of course, the process was quite problematic the first time. Well, there's been no indication that it is going to change. So that itself, I think, is an issue going forward. If given that it's probably not going to change, then how many operators are really going to want to be involved in this process? Because a lot of them were burnt in the first process. I mean, of course, Hard Rock have committed themselves to Hokkaido. They've always said they want to be part of it, so I expect them to be involved. But other operators, I'm not sure there'll be a rush to get involved. And then the third question, of course, is the requirements for building an IR are still quite substantial and have never really been reduced for the smaller jurisdictions. So it's still yet to be seen exactly how feasible that requirement is in somewhere like Aichi or other places that aren't an Osaka or Tokyo or Yokohama.
Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's all once bitten, twice shy, isn't it? I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I think a lot of them. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there will be a lot of interest, but it will be cautious interest. I think there'll be, and there'll be statements made. Well, something has to change. Look what happened last time. You tried to sell 3 licenses. You're only able to sell 1 in the end, and even that one was sort of, they were in so deep that they couldn't really get out. I think MGM. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing MGM at all. I think they made the right decision, and I think actually they're going to do very well out of it, particularly if they're a monopoly, which they certainly will be for a while at least. Because even if at the pace things move in Japan, even if they give a license tomorrow, they're not going to be open by 2030 when MGM is open, and MGM may end up with an effective monopoly in the Kansai region anyway. Quite likely will do. So yeah, I think MGM going to do very well out of it. So my comment is not a criticism of MGM in any way, shape, or form, but I think really it was almost zero licenses given. Of course, it was 1 license given, but that was almost forced. So, you know, everything fell over. Wakayama fell over, Nagasaki fell over, Yokohama fell over, Hokkaido fell over. There were even talk of others. I mean, even if we go back to that, remember that cover story we did back in, was it 2019 or 2020? And we went through, I think it was 20 places, wasn't it? Wasn't there 20 places in Japan that had put their hand up in the air and said, we're interested in some way? And every single one of them, bar Osaka, fell over in the end. So that really tells you something, that the process was seriously flawed. And will the Japanese learn from that and change the process? Well, as you say, we haven't heard of anything changing at this stage. It's all the same system. And can they change the process? Are they willing to go back and say, look, we got it wrong last time, we need to make some changes for this time? So there's going to be a lot more cautiousness. And again, as you say, Ben, this 3, what's the requirement? Is it 3 billion? I can't remember what it is, but maybe it's not a dollar amount. Maybe it's because this was all back in 2019, 2020. I have to go back and brush up on all this. But it's a certain number of hotel rooms and a certain amount of MICE space and a certain amount. There are all those requirements, I know, which I think effectively means you've got to build at least a sort of a. Well, I remember it was 3 or 4 billion was kind of the minimum. Well, that was back in 2019, 2020. Costs have gone up by a lot since then. So it could be 5, 6, 7 billion, could be 8 billion. I mean, the MGM one, what are they quoting for that at the moment? Is it 10, 9, 10, 11 billion?
Yeah, I mean, they went down to 9 billion at one stage, but they sort of hinted that it's probably closer back to 10 a while ago, and they haven't really spoken about cost. Although I think a lot of that is baked in now, so I think that a lot of it is already set in place. There may be some minor changes over time, but we're looking at 10 billion for sure.
Yeah, and 10 billion, and the exchange rate's gone from 110 to 150 in that time. So if it had gone the other way from 150 to 110, it might be 15 billion. So, I mean, it's so expensive to build in Japan. I mean, it is a rich country, it has got a high GDP per capita, but its prevalence of gaming is not necessarily that great. I know there's a pachinko industry there, but that's a sunset industry. That's an industry in decline. And I know there's a big racing community. The JRA does very well. The Japanese Racing Association does very well. But does that equate to casino gambling? I'm not sure. So anyway, let's keep an eye on this. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the next few years. All right, what's next, Oscar? Oh, there you go, regulating. I'll let you talk about this one. He was great. He was great, this guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, Paul James heads up the regulator there in New Zealand. Gave an absolutely terrific opening keynote speech on day one of regulating a game on Monday in Sydney, and really very clearly mapped out why New Zealand is legalising and regulating online casino gaming. He gave very rational explanation, I would call it, And really, it's about acknowledging the very obvious fact that New Zealanders are playing on offshore sites in considerable numbers, and the option is either continue to let them do that or regulate it and try and bring them back onshore within regulated sites. That's basically the crux of it all. It's, I think we're seeing in Australia now that there's no real public acknowledgement of the issue of offshore gas. As much as we spoke about it at the conference this week, politically, publicly, it's a dirty secret. In New Zealand, the government's come out and acknowledged it, said, look, this is the situation and this is the best way to address it. And they're absolutely right.
Look, they would go, yeah, rational is the exact right word, the word you used. And it sort of was very Singapore-like in that they gave a very clear message of what they were doing and why they were doing it. And the thing that he came out and said, and I'm sure it's in your story there, is we're just rechanneling the players from an illegal offshore to a legal regulated onshore scenario. So we're not creating a new industry. We're just moving those players into something safer and better, where we get some tax, they get some consumer protection, and we have an honest conversation about what's going on. We don't just bury our head in the sand, a la Australia, and just pretend it's not going on when it is. I thought he was great. I thought he was really rational. And I sort of asked him the question about, I can't remember what the question I asked was, but the answer he gave was that it took a very long time to get that to happen. It was not an easy journey because people perceive it as, oh, you're legalizing gaming, you're creating gambling. No, not creating gambling. We're simply moving gambling that already exists from an illegal framework to a legal framework. So I thought it was very good. But he said it took him 6 or 7 goes before they finally got the political will to push it through. So that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah. He said they'd spoken to the government multiple times and recommended this was the path to go down. The other thing I thought was really interesting that he spoke about, I mean, at the moment in Australia, there is renewed talk about banning pretty much all gambling advertising. And again, this is the issue we're talking about. Now, in Paul James's talk on Monday, he spoke about the fact that licensed operators will be permitted to advertise their product with some restrictions, but generally permitted to advertise their product. And he was asked about that particular topic, and he said, again, because by advertising licensed sites, you are providing an opportunity to channel players towards those sites, towards those regulated sites. So everything that they're doing is all about the best way to bring players into that onshore regulated market.
Yeah, I remember commenting to you, I think this guy's been reading IAG, all the things he said are sort of the things that we've been saying for years. But it's great to see a jurisdiction actually doing that. So, look, I wish them all the best of luck. I hope it works out for them. Also, being a small country, New Zealand might be helpful. I think that it's a little bit less complicated. It's still complicated, don't get me wrong, but a little bit less complicated. It's kind of like when you do a pilot scheme, you do it in a smaller place first. And they're going to have 15 up to 15 licensees, and he explained a little bit about the process, and he mentioned that they expected to have the whole thing live. They were aiming for this year, I think they were aiming for, right?
Yeah, 1st of December is there's a process. So the regulations come into play around May, I believe. The formal process of bidding sort of kicks off from then. Go live, I believe it's 1st of December. And then there's certain allowances through to the middle of next year when everything kicks in, and you must have a license by then, a full license approved to be able to continue operating past the middle of next year. So, 1st of December, I guess, is when theoretically we could have the first sites live.
And if anyone's watching this and are interested in applying for a license, get in touch with the powers that be in New Zealand. It's go to IAG, go to asgam.com and have a look at this story. The name of the Internal Affairs? It's too small for me to read. What was he from? He was from the Internal Affairs Department or something, wasn't
he? Yeah, I believe it, Department of Internal Affairs.
Yeah, he was the secretary. Very sensible. So anyway, that's we wish New Zealand good luck in creating a legal and regulated online gaming industry for casino gaming. They already have sports betting, of course, monopoly operator, right?
Yes, TAB operated by Entain, and of course Entain will definitely. I believe they're bidding for 3 licenses, which is the maximum that any one company or person can hold. So they'll be going after 3. Whether they get 3 is to be seen. But yeah, they run the TAB, sports betting, the racing betting over there.
So they'd have 3 different brands owned by the same company, a bit like Sands China owning 5 casinos in Macau or something like that, I guess. So you could, in theory, end up with as few as 5 operators if they had 3 each, and there's 15 licenses. Now, they may not issue all 15 straight away, too. Let's see. Interesting. All right, what's next, Oscar? A new boss of the Star Brisbane, Ben. This is right up your alley, these Star stories.
Yeah, well, look, we've seen a few new senior appointments at Star very recently. I've just spotted a typo in that headline, Andrew, which is bugging me now. So should be named instead of.
So it should be.
So this is the second senior appointment by Star over the past week or so. They recently announced, what's his name, Mike Costa, I believe, to be the CEO of the Star Sydney. Works for a Bally's property in the US, coming to oversee the Star Sydney.
I think he's a former Caesars guy.
Yes, that's right. Now, Dave Whimpey, I don't know Dave personally, but his bio says that he started at Jupiter's, which is now the Star Gold Coast, has worked at Tab Corp. So it's really going full circle in a way for him, coming back to a Star property. So part of the requirements for Star is to, getting their license back, is to rework their leadership culture. We know that since Sue Kim and Bally's has come in, they're cutting down their corporate office and putting a lot of power back into the 3 properties and the property leadership. So they lost all 3 of their leaders of their 3 properties recently, the Star Sydney, the Star Brisbane and the Star Gold Coast. So they've put 2 of those back into place now, Dave Whimpey being the second. Interesting to see how that plays out over time, Andrew.
Yeah, look, I'm going to try and get there in August on the way to AGE, back down to Sydney to see. I mean, I'll have been all over around the world between now and August, but I'm going to come back down to Australia in August for AGE to see you again in Sydney, and then I'm hoping to be able to contrive it that I go via Brisbane and spend a night or 2 in Brisbane to go and check this out, because I still haven't seen it yet, and I'd like to. I'm hearing that it may be a nice property, but business is not so great. So it'll be interesting to go and meet with them there, or even just walk around and see what the property's like, see what happens. Because, of course, there's still, you're not fixing that typo as we speak, are you?
That's exactly what I'm doing.
I thought you might be. It's annoying you. Look, I think it'd be, there's a lot of talk around what Chow Tai Fook and Far East Consortium are going to do with their equity in Brisbane, and how that's all going to play out for Star. So, yeah, interesting times ahead. All right, next one, Oscar. This was just a quick one, a little bit of a plug for ourselves. We've announced a 1-day IDEA Summit that stands for the iGaming Discovery and Exchange Asia Pacific Summit, and that's being powered by our sister brand, Complete iGaming, and which covers the iGaming industry in Asia Pacific and the Americas. So we've added this to day 0 of the IAG EXPO. So IAG EXPO traditionally starts on a Tuesday. Day 1 is a Tuesday, with the awards that night, the MAD on the night before the Monday night, and the summit and the exhibition being on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, both 2 days long on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, with the regulators forum that we co-host with Padcore. Padcore and IAG present that together. Being on the Thursday, an extra 1 day, and now we've added an extra 1 day on day 0 for the iGaming industry from Complete iGaming. So that's going to be interesting, because it's such an interesting time for the iGaming industry in the Philippines, and we've just done this, announced Tonette as a expert contributor. She'll be heavily involved in that day 0 for sure, with all her expertise on the regulatory and legal framework around iGaming in the Philippines, and Padcore heavily involved in that day. In fact, Padcore very much encouraged us to create that day. So that'll be exciting, Ben.
It will, Andrew. I mean, we had a very a session that was very well received on the whole e-games, online gaming topic at last year's IAG EXPO. And I think that sort of made sense. Given everything that's happening, that really is the sector that's booming. It makes up for more than 50% of GGR Philippines-wide these days. So, certainly I think it deserves its own day. And particularly, as you say, I mean, given all the regulatory changes around that sector and, PAGCOR just getting their regulations right and adjusting things, I think it's a perfect time to, get the industry together and have a bit of a deep dive into everything that's happening there.
Well, look, everything in the world is going online, and there's no reason why gaming shouldn't as well. And it's traditionally been pretty much nowhere that's been a clear regulated market in Asia Pacific. Now we're seeing New Zealand do it. We're seeing the Philippines do it in a sensible way for their PGO industry, given the banning of the POGO industry. I think they've learned a lot of lessons from what happened in the POGO industry, and they're trying to get it right with the PGO industry and not mess it up. So there's a lot more thought going into the PGO industry and the e-game sector or iGaming or whatever you want to call it. They don't seem to have figured out what to call it in the Philippines. Everybody calls it something different. We're trying to call it iGaming. But they seem to be putting a lot more thought into it, whereas POGO, it was a bit of an open slather, wasn't it? So it's good that they're putting this energy and effort into getting it right in the Philippines.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, the Philippines and New Zealand are the two jurisdictions that the rest of Asia is going to look at to see what they can do right, what might not be done so well, what might fit into their individual models. And in fact, I think we were told that there are definitely some jurisdictions watching what New Zealand's doing. The regulator's aware of that, just keeping an eye on how that process all goes. So it wouldn't surprise me. It'll take a little while, but in 5 years' time, we might see a couple more jurisdictions pop up across APAC.
Yep. And I've just got the 20% battery warning on my phone. So this streaming must really suck battery from the phone. I've never done it on the phone before, the first time this time. So we better motor along. Okay, what's the next one, Oscar? This was Brendan Thomas speaking at Regulating the Game. Ben, you can do this one.
Yeah, this is interesting, Andrew. Actually, I mean, Brendan gave about a 15-minute speech and then took some questions from the audience. And I believe this was his answer to a question that you asked, Andrew, about the process of the civil case against Star Entertainment Group. Of course, that's been dragging on for almost 4 years now. That was launched in 2022. I believe that all the case was basically rested late last year, and we've been waiting for
August.
more than 6 months. Yeah, we've been waiting for more than 6 months for a decision on this. We know that Crown settled their case with AUSTRAC a few years back, 2023, for 450 million Australian, around 300 million US, give or take. So the question is, will Star's punishment be for past transgressions be similar around that mark? I mean, you'd have to think it would be somewhere in that ballpark. But we're just waiting to find out what the court says, what the federal court says about that. And everybody's waiting anxiously, Andrew, especially Star.
I thought he was pretty good. I mean, it would have been so easy for him to say, it's in the courts, I can't say anything. And he did say that he couldn't say much, but he was good enough to say a few things. He said it was taking a long time. He didn't say it was too long, but he acknowledged that it was taking a long time. And he did point to the egregiousness of the behaviour. He did say, look, there's no way we couldn't have prosecuted this. We had to prosecute it. It was very, very bad what was done. But I think, there's an argument that the owners of Star now are not the owners that, it is a completely different Star to what that Star was when that behaviour occurred. It's different beneficial ownership. It's different leadership. But the current ownership also did acquire knowing that this was a contingent liability. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think he's on a previous occasion said they're not in the business of putting businesses out of business. Just use the word business 3 times in a sentence. So, and I think, didn't Sue Kim, was it Sue Kim or was it before Sue Kim, Star came out and said if it's more than 100 million, it could send us broke. Somebody said that at Star at one stage a few months ago.
Yeah, well, Sue Kim has certainly acknowledged that it could be an issue, this fine. I'm sure that's Sue Kim just getting a subtle message out to the court, perhaps, in Australia.
Yeah, I'm sure. Obviously, he might be doing the exact same thing. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. think I might have surprised Oscar there with that.
Look, no, we've got the Wynn resuming construction on its
Oh, hello.
UAE.
I've frozen up, have I?
Yes, but we can still hear you and see you. Can you hear us?
I'm
No.
back. It seems like I'm back.
You're back. Right, you're back.
Yeah,
We can
maybe as
always
the
see and
battery
hear
gets
you, but
weaker, the Wi-Fi gets worse.
possibly, yes. So, I mean, look, this is obviously quite an important story at the moment. We've seen what's been happening in the Middle East in recent weeks with the conflict there. We've seen the impact that's had on the UAE and some concerns there around, we won't go too much into the conflict itself, but obviously the questions around the wind projects right up there in Ras Al Khaimah. Wynn came out and said that construction resumed after a brief pause. They said that around, I think they said about 7 or 8% of their staff had taken the opportunity to temporarily relocate or stay where they are rather than coming to the UAE, but that the majority of their staff are still on site, still working towards the 2027 opening. And so Craig Billings spoke at the JP Morgan Access Forum this week just to reiterate the fact that construction is back on track. And again, he's quite bullish on the IR's prospects moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's fairly widely known in the industry. They also have other sites in the UAE as well. So they're not all sitting at the bottom of that tower working right there. They're working elsewhere in the UAE or within Ras Al Khaimah. And good, I wish them nothing but the best to hopefully they can get this thing built and get it open in 2027. It's very unfortunate, a bit of a black swan event for them. Hopefully the war can be over soon and we can move on with it. There's not much more that can be said about it than that. But nobody's been hurt. Everybody's been given every possible option by Wynn. I think Wynn just handled it really well. I think Wynn's given them every possible option. That said, if you want to go home, no problem. You want to work from home, home being in the other side of the world, that's fine, no problem. You can work remotely, or if you want to stay here, you can, or if you want to go to another place within the UAE that's not right at the base of the building, so to speak, you do that too. So, you can't ask much more from Wynn than that. They've given them every option, so good luck to them. And we know a lot of people who are there and them all to stay safe and nothing to happen to anybody. And, it's just a little bit concerning for people in the UAE right now.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We must be getting near the end, Oscar. I think this might be the last one. This was from this morning, Ben. You did this?
Yes. So Bill Hornbuckle and Jonathan Halkett from MGM spoke again this morning at the JP Morgan Access Forum. I listened into that audio this morning about that. They spoke quite extensively about what's going on in Macau. Obviously, MGM has been performing exceptionally well post-COVID in Macau, lifting their market share up to above 16%. I mean, pre-COVID, they were less than 10%. So they've done very well. And Bill Hornbuckle sort of explained their stance here. I mean, they've really lent into the premium mass segment. They've been doing very well there. He confirmed that they're due to launch their new premium mass suites, 124 rooms across 3 floors of MGM Cotai next month. So that's not far away now. And also reiterated the fact that they don't really see the market changing too much at the moment. That's very much a premium market at the moment, Macau. He acknowledged that the VIP segment has also recovered substantially, but premium mass is still the primary focus. I think he said of their top 10 customers, 6 or 7 are premium mass customers and 3 or 4 are VIP customers. And that's really up to whatever the individual customer prefers, how they prefer to play. Do they like that rebate game or do they prefer the premium mass style? So that was interesting. And then the other thing he spoke about is he said that MGM spent about 35% of their non-gaming spend commitment during this 10-year concession, about 65% to go. Not sure how they're going to spend it yet. He said discussions with the government are going to start, he thinks, across all concessionaires about, all right, what's the most effective way we can distribute the rest of this quite substantial commitment over the next few years.
Yeah, well, the total amount is 16 billion. If anyone wants to know what they're spending it on, please visit New Macau, our sister publication, New Macau, newmacau.com, or actually new-mac.com. But you could just Google New Macau. I'm sure it'll be the first hit, or New Macau Media, or non-gaming in Macau or something like that. There you go. I think Oscar's doing it. There we go. There's New Macau. And we do stories every single week there on, I think we do 6 stories a week at the moment on all the non-gaming spend that the concessionaires are spending their money on. So there's lots and lots of detail in there if you want to know what they're spending the money on. But I suppose 35% is probably about right, because what are we, 3 years in? I mean, it started in January, 3, 4, and 5. So wow, we're 3 and a third years in, and he spent a third. So we're 3 and a third years in of 10, and when he spent a third, so it's just he's bang on track. And they're going to spend 16 billion US dollars between the 6 of them over the 10 years. I think it comes out to be at $4.4 million a week. So it's a ferocious amount of money. And they're spending it on all sorts of things, aren't they? They're spending it on programming, they're spending it on facilities, they're spending it on, well, in New Macau, we've got 20 categories of things that they're spending it on: entertainment and sports and F&B and also like training of people within, things that you wouldn't immediately think of, like improvement of people in Macau, upskilling people in Macau, and support for charities, community welfare. They're spending on all sorts of good stuff for Macau, so that's great. And MGM, those 124 rooms, boy, that's really going to help them, because that's one of the issues that they've had. MGM's always had an issue of not enough hotel rooms, just simply not enough. They've had a very small proportion of the hotel rooms, and it's premium mass is where it's at. So those 124 rooms designed for those players, those kinds of players, wow, that's really going to help them a lot. And congratulations to Kenny Fung has done a lot of work there. He's very, very passionate about the property, and I catch up with him from time to time, and he loves to talk about nothing but what they're doing at MGM and all the work that they're putting in. And Tian as well. Tian Han is a friend of IAG's, and he's done some great work there on the gaming side. So look, MGM, they're pretty much were always coming in 5th of the 6, weren't they, in the years to come? But years gone past. But since COVID, they bolted out. They bolted out of the gates post COVID, and did very, very well. And Scott sent me a message, Scott Messenger, our chief of staff, noting, and it's well worth mentioning, that not all of the 6 have got the same commitment. Galaxy and Sands have a much larger commitment than the other 4. I think Sands has got the biggest commitment of all of them, and you can find that information in IAG. We published a lot of stories. I wrote a lot of stories in late 2022, around December 2022, all on those numbers and what the commitments were and the relicensing. I remember I wrote that 14-part series, that long 14-part series on the relicensing in 2022. So if you want more information about the 6 companies and what their commitments and requirements and constraints are with the Macau government, go do some searching around on asgam.com. All right, let's move on to the next one before my phone runs out of battery. Oh, that's it. Okay, that's good news. All right, well, as we often do, wrap up with a little bit on the travels. I am off to Melbourne shortly. Like literally, as soon as we're finished here, I'm off to the airport and head down to Melbourne. There's a message from Scott, Andrew and Ben in Australia at the same time. Yes, it does happen. Sometimes the planets line up. And the Prime Minister usually greets us when we... No, not really. Down to Melbourne, be down in Melbourne for about, I think, 10 days or so, catching up with the crew there at Crown, and then it's off to San Diego for AIGA, for the Indian Gaming Association's trade show and convention in San Diego. First one of those I've ever been to. So because I've never really had that responsibility before, but now that we've merged with CDC in the US, that's the second biggest trade show after G2E in the US. So I'll be off to there, and then eventually back to Asia for the 2 MADs, Ben. And you'll be joining us for MAD in Manila, Ben.
I will be looking forward to that one, Andrew, heading over to see a few clients and do the rounds in the Philippines there. But certainly we'll be there at Manila at La Vie on the 14th of April. First time I've had it there, Andrew. And, I said before, first time I went to that property was in 2007, and I haven't seen it since. So I'm looking forward 19 years later to to seeing that property and what's become of it? Obviously, I expect substantial improvements.
I assure you it's changed.
Yes.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. It's much, much better. So we're excited about that. Our friends at La Vie, and that's obviously the Newcastle property. 14th of April. If you're looking for an invitation, get in touch with IAG and we'll get you an invitation. And it's going to be a great day and great night, I should say, the Manila After Dark. And then exactly 1 week later on April 21, we'll be doing it again in Macau at Aurora at Altira, Macau. Great Italian venue, Aurora. And then it won't be that long till G2E Asia in Macau in mid-May, and the industry party, of course, on the 13th of May. That's always the big event of G2E Asia. That's always the big social event, and we'll have hundreds and hundreds of people there. So make sure you get a ticket. It's hard to get. That event's always sold out, and it's hard to get a ticket. You have to get a ticket either from IAG or from a sponsor. The tickets are allocated and they're numbered, so it's much harder to get into than a MAD, for example. And then the year just for you, Ben, on the weekend. Anything exciting happening, or are you recovering from regulating the game?
No, I'm going out for a nice seafood lunch tomorrow with the family, Andrew, and
Nice.
Sunday pretty quiet, I think. Haven't really thought that far ahead yet. Try and watch some football and do the Aussie thing. Put a bet on. Watch my team lose. No problem.
Play responsibly. Yeah, so very good. All right. Well, well, I'll be heading down to Melbourne and doing a bit of work over the weekend, unfortunately. Got to catch up on a few things that I couldn't get done because we were doing regulating the game. Took 3 days out, but it was 3 days well worth having taken out. Thought it was a great event, as we said before. All right. Well, that's it from us, from IAG for this week. We'll see you next time on IAG Live. Have a great weekend and bye for now. See ya.